Hey everybody, welcome to this week's live stream. I hope everybody's doing great today. So we are going to make some spring color. I don't know. I couldn't think of anything else. Some spring color pen blanks. It's a combination that I've wanted to do for a while. So it's going to be green, white, and pink. I thought that'd be kind of fun. I got a couple of little custom colors that I whipped up, and then we'll throw in some white, probably like a white pearl. And it should be pretty fun. These are going to be going into the Pen Blank Club boxes. So I thought, flowers are popping up all over the place. Pink, green, white, that should be a pretty cool flower looking blank. And it gives me a chance to kind of play around with some fun colors that I mixed up like randomly. So let's see here. Who was here first? Michael McEwen was in the house, and Vinny, and we got Jennifer's here. How's it going, Jennifer? And Mark L is here. Kevin's here. Nice. Who else? Who else we got? Lilia's here. And David Bingham's here. Who else? Tim Olson. Nice. Michael DeQuattro. And let's see here. Scrolling. Myra's here too. So if I missed anybody, I apologize. Barb's here too. Perfect. Barb's here because we're going to do, first thing we're going to do actually, and this is actually like 3 weeks in a row that I forgot to do this. So Barb sent me she sent me a care package full of paint pens, like the white ones. We were talking about, I was like, does Sharpie make like a white pen? And Barb's like, I'll send you some stuff. So we got a whole package full. And basically what this is for, I use Sharpies a lot of times. But sometimes when you're doing dark blanks, especially obviously black blanks, but even just dark ones, marking with like pretty much any color Sharpie doesn't work. And that's what I use for little tick marks and different stuff. Another place that it could maybe help out, we'll pull some of this over too. My drill bits are dark. They're like I don't know what they're called. They have some sort of I don't know, coating or whatever. But they're kind of just darker looking. I don't know. They're kind of like I don't know if this will show up exactly. I don't know. Like a black Sharpie just doesn't like stand out on these things. So I thought let's pull some darker blanks. I don't have anything that's like really black, I don't think. I'm going to go look real quick. See if I can find something that's like, oh, this one's really, it's pretty dark. I don't think I have anything that's just, oh, maybe I do. Actually, I do. I do. Okay. I got some of the Deep Space test blanks. They're a little sparkly, but they are black. So we got a black blank. We got a drill bit. So just, I don't know, a place where we can maybe use a different pen. She sent a lot, so we're going to do a few tests here. Let me switch back over to the overhead view here. Harold's here. How's it going? And Darren too. Old Man River. People are just popping in left and right. All right, so we got a lot of pens here. Let's see here. We got, I think, Utilocraft. Funsels. Look at these gigantic ones. That's fun. These are okay. So these are acrylic markers. All these Funsel ones. So that's fun. These ones are paint. They call them paint markers. That's another acrylic. And there is a Sharpie white. I didn't even know that. And it says it's water-based, so that'll be kind of an interesting test. So I'm kind of guessing that all these are kind of the same. So. And you do shake them. There's a little ball in there. This one, they all have that little ball kind of thing going on. What about this one? Yeah, there's a little something in there. This one's an extra fine 0.7. Let's see, what does this one say? This one's a 3 millimeter, 1 millimeter. Wow, she got a whole bunch of these things. This one's it says medium point. So let's mark some blanks up real quick. It'll just be kind of a fun experiment to see how this works. These ones aren't super dark, but there's a dark spot on the back of that one. All right, so Michael Holton uses, I have no clue who that is. Maybe Barb can answer that. I'm not sure exactly. Let's see here. I'm just double checking to see if there's anything going on. Okay, so let's just start with the black one because that's kind of. We'll go with. I'll go with a bigger one maybe. That's interesting. I'm gonna shake it up. Let's see. I'm gonna zoom you guys in actually. Get it kind of centered here. Might take a minute to get it kind of primed. I'm not sure. Is there like instructions? Oh, there's instructions. I should probably read the instructions, huh? I think I'll read the big one. I still can't read it. Let me get some glasses on so I can read this thing. All right, so 1, shake well for up to 30 seconds. With cap on and pointing up. Okay. Pointing up. Push tip slightly to release air pressure. Okay. Push tip to and fro 2 to 3 times to get the ink flowing. Okay, so I'm just gonna grab all these things. We're gonna shake for a bit. I don't know if I'm gonna have the patience for 30 seconds, but let's give it a shake. The sight-saving pen edition, I know. Dances with Aardvarks is in the house. All right, so I'm shaking. Get it on camera. You can probably hear it. I'm gonna try to be patient here for a minute here. Not a full minute. Maybe we'll do 20 seconds or so. I wasn't counting. That seems like 20 seconds. Okay, now I think I'm gonna need something to poke this thing on. Let's see here. Do we have some sort of a scratch sheet that's not gonna like dirty the pens up or anything? Let's see here. What do I got? I don't really have any paper. I have lots of papers, but I don't want to use half of them. Very important papers, guys. Very important. I got a Post-it pad. I think I might stick that on something else, though. Because I have a feeling this might kind of go through the Post-it pad. So here we go. Let's get these things out of the way. So Post-it. Try these guys out. Let's see here. So like I said, I think I'm going to save the big ones. We'll do the Sharpie. This was a different brand. And then we'll do like the 3mm over here. So then you got to, oh, there we go. Push it to let the air out and then wiggle it or something. Oh, look at that. There it goes. Okay, so we got that one ready. Oh, there we go. That one's good. Wiggle it side to side. When you do it right, things work out. Nope, I lost the cap on that one. I didn't read the instructions on this one, but I'm guessing it's probably the same thing. Yep, oh, look at that. I gotta go find, oh, there's the cap, okay. Okay, we got the Sharpie one. Let's see here, what else we got? We got Funsel. Actually, I think I want to do this really thin one too. Look at that. Because the thin one might actually be the sweet spot. Okay, so let's give this a shot. Now I'm guessing, you know, like you're pretty much like painting this stuff. It's like a paint. So I think that you could probably end up like smearing it around. So we're probably going to have to kind of let it dry a little bit. But try and get some dark sides of these things up. Get the drill bit in there. Is that in there? No, not really. Okay. Let's try that way. There we go. Okay. So here's the big one. Sharpie first. And then we'll do the, is that 1 millimeter? Let's see, hold on a minute. Let me read these. 3 millimeter. This is the Funsols. 3 millimeter. Ooh, that one works pretty good. Thinking that the 1 millimeter might be my favorite though. Ooh, that's nice. Look at that. I like that 1 millimeter. What's this one? 0.7. Oh man. Let me wipe this one off a little bit. It kind of got a little crazy there. See if we get a different look. Yeah, there we go. So you got to kind of watch out if you push down and do all that stuff. And I think I kind of got stuff in the cap too. But so those worked pretty well. Let's try some blanks here. Let's see. This one's, I don't know. This one doesn't say like what the size is. I don't think. It just says medium. Pretty thick, but I mean that's pretty good for a lot of things. Like sometimes I just need to know like about where I need to like cut it off or something like that. So like that would be pretty cool. So let's see. Let's get these things just in a row here so that so I know what I'm doing. This is the 3 mil. I'm just gonna wipe that off real quick and just see if it changes. No, okay. So the Sharpie is a little bigger than 3 millimeter. Here's the 1. Oh, yeah, we already did the drill bit. I like these thin ones. I think you kind of want to go with, if you're trying to mark something like this, you're probably going to want to go with a thinner one. And how hard you press is also going to kind of dictate, some stuff. I think the more you press, the more paint comes out. So for the most part, I'm pretty happy with this. Now, on the drill bit, it's pretty blobby, and I have a feeling if I touched this, it would probably smear still. Like, so you'd have to kind of wait just a little bit. Yeah, I'm picking some up. So you'll have to kind of wait, maybe if you like blow on it, because I think they are, well, at least the Sharpie's water-based, it says. This one says water-based, the Utilo. I think I like those the best, which the nice thing is that was the big pack of them. So I think Barb knew. She's like, yep, you're going to like the thin one. And then these ones, I'm guessing that all of these, if they're acrylic, they got to be water-based. Yeah, water-based. That was without glasses even. Wow. Yeah, water-based ink. So these are all water-based. Now, I do think that there's also like an oil-based paint marker thing out there. But I got to be honest, this Utilo Craft, I think is my pick. Oh, we're pretty zoomed in there. Pretty zoomed in. So this is the pack that I got these out of. So I think I'm going to put this next to my lathe. I like these bigger ones though, because there's other things, actually let's break this thing open, because this is like serious. Like when you're like, okay, I got to mark a wall or something. Like pretty serious stuff. Oh, look at that guy. Oh man. Like this is pretty serious stuff here. I think I'm going to double this up here. That one's not really coming out. Maybe it needs to, saturate that giant sponge. There it goes. It's starting to go. This one's going to be serious, guys. Takes a little bit more warming up, though. I'll say that. But I think once you've got it primed, I said to go in it, squeeze it back and forth. Okay, so I think that's good. So let's look at the tips of all these guys. Show you all of them. Here's a little bit smaller one. That one might be a little bit more manageable than this giant one for certain projects. And then, so this big one says it's a 15 millimeter. That thing's serious. This guy is, I'm just gonna get this plastic stuff off. This one's a 10. I'd say 10, like if you got to do a big project, 10's probably a pretty good way to go. Let's get that one primed. Let's just check them all out. You do need to prime these big tip ones. Pretty good. One's not seeming to want to prime too well. I think I should probably put the cap on before I shake it up. Give it another little shake there. See if that helps anything. Thinking about it, I think. They're starting to kind of go. There we go. We just needed a little bit of tender, loving care. Yeah, there we go. 10 millimeter, and then this one is a 5. So let's see what that looks like. Oh, that's pretty good too. It's a big kind of blobby tip one. Just pop that. Give it a little bit of a, oh yeah, there we go. All right, so let's try, here's the 5. Boom, that's a serious line right there. So there's the 5. Here's this one's the 10. And so I'm guessing you can probably, you can just do that, like boom. But you could probably kind of use the side on this one too, yeah. So this one, the 10, that thing will mark some stuff up. Now, the 15, if you just want to paint your blank white, like, here's the other thing, like, you might even be able to paint your tubes with these things. Hold on, guys. This is like dual purpose right here. I'm gonna get, let's see, what's the best way to do this? I used to have I guess we'll just stick it on like my tube holder. Check this out, guys. I think I'm gonna go with the 10. I think that's probably all that I really need. Can you guys see? Check this out. So it might be better. The problem is I'm putting a pretty thick coat on because I'm like covering, kind of going over spots a couple times. And there are areas where it kind of is a little bit see-through. And the more that you kind of keep painting, the more it kind of just moves it around. So I think that if you wanted to, I think this would work. I mean, now you're going to probably have to do a couple coats though. So what I would probably do is just kind of paint, not try and kind of keep going over and over it again. Just put on, a coat and then let it dry. It probably only take, depending on your like humidity levels and all that kind of stuff, heat, like 5 or 10 minutes, and then come back and just fill in all the spots. And it'd probably be easier to paint over it. Now, the other thing is I didn't wash this. A lot of times, even especially when I'm gluing them in, I'll take some denatured alcohol and wipe off the tube. There could be like oils or, who knows what, some sort of contaminant on there, which the paint is not going to want to stick as well and glue won't either. So you would probably want to wash them, but I mean, this would work, I mean, why not? So not too bad. Pretty cool. So a big thank you to Barb for sending that out. I apologize for not getting that, doing this until now. What happened was I had it And then I set it aside, and then it got covered by t-shirts and who knows what. And we kind of missed out on it. So I'm going to stop real quick and look at you guys' comments real quick here. I wasn't really paying attention. What's the price compared to Posca? I don't know. I'm not sure what a Posca pen is. Light fast, yeah. I think for painting like the tubes, I don't know if that really matters, the light fast thing and all that, because you're going to cover it with some other stuff a little bit here and there. So if you can read the instructions, they get worse all the time. Yeah, I know. Cool. Yeah, so these are pretty cool. Like I said, I really like this Utilo. Now, being kind of water-based, you got to watch out if you're like, wet sanding or, doing stuff with water. It probably will, I'm guessing it would probably pull it off of surfaces. So just be aware of that. But, for what I want to use it for like marking. And again, tell me if you guys think, I don't use acrylic paints. I usually just use spray paint when I'm painting tubes. That works pretty well as the inside. Now, the inside of blanks, I don't think these would work too well. You just can't get in there, so that would be a little tough. But for painting tubes, like I have used acrylic, like the paint pot type things, and like actually painted it on in the past. That I don't think there's any issue with acrylic paint and glue or any of that kind of stuff. Like I think it would be fine. Let me know if you guys have more, if anybody has any more experience with that, though. Oh, Kevin already said good for painting. Sorry about that. Calligraphy, yeah, that's true. Let's see here. See if you guys had any other questions. Yeah, Brian makes excellent bushings. He can do anything. Let's see. Mandrel size scrap rod and spray paint. Yeah. Spray paint's pretty good. Because it's pretty quick, and it's what I really like about it is it's super thin. Now, again, the one thing about painting tubes that can be a pain, if you're using something really thick, then the drill hole in your blank, it may not be big enough. Like you may have to like go find like a size up and do, weird stuff. Typically for painting the tube itself, that's not a big deal. Where you run into issues, and I definitely have run into issues trying to paint the insides of blanks. That's where, you're closing that gap, and you can add enough material to where one of two things happens. Either the tube just won't go in there, period, or you're basically scraping all that paint off when you're inserting the tube in some cases. So having something thin is good, but again, that's why I said if you just did a couple coats and did more like kind of a single pass, laying down the paint on the tube, then come back and just kind of fill in, put a little bit more on. I think that would probably be good, but I'm looking at this and it's not particularly thick looking. So I think it's a pretty good way to go, honestly. I mean, heck, you could probably just use a black Sharpie. I never thought about that either. Spray paint works pretty well though too. It's pretty quick. Posca are the leading acrylic markers. Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know. Sound expensive though too, if they're archival and all that. So pretty cool, pretty cool. All right, so I'm gonna go overhead one more time real quick and just kind of see how. So I'm not getting anything. Even this big blob has, it's only been a few minutes, so it like cures pretty quick. But over on, I got something on the lathe that I don't want to take off. But with it spinning on a dark blank now, you should be able to see your mark. The problem that I had, I mean, if you put a black, obviously on a black blank, I mean, you guys can barely see that. Once it starts spinning, like that black mark's gone. But even on dark blanks, it just kind of blends in, like on dark blues and stuff. Once you start spinning the lathe, it just, and you know, like right now it's a little bit kind of shiny, but it kind of, once it dries, it just goes away and you can't see your mark. So it's not a huge deal. You know, you just turn the lathe off and position your tool. But, you know, I'm like, there's probably an easier way to do this. Use a lighter marker. So this is going right by my lathe. And I'm going to keep thinking about these things now that, you know, it's one of those things. This is why I like to share as many things on the stream as possible. And you know, I talk a lot and I mention a lot of different things. So for beginners, I probably get a little bit overwhelming with stuff. But the reason that I do that, and I understand, I know that's not necessarily the best thing to do. But I think in general, I try to lay out what you need to know first, and then kind of talk about things that might just spur an idea and like show you guys things, you know, examples of different stuff, and we do experiments. Because a lot of times, you know, you can say this or that, but until you actually see it in action, that's when you're like, oh, you know what I could do with this? You know, that's when those kind of aha moments pop up. And so that's why I like to share all that kind of stuff. And like now that I've seen these things in action and understand how they work, then you're like, oh, you know what I could use is one of those white markers. That would make things a lot easier. So pretty cool, pretty cool. We're gonna put these blanks and things back where I found them. I'm still working on the pigment stuff, guys. I gotta be honest, once you start getting into bottles and labels and oh my God, there's a lot of stuff that goes into this. And so I do apologize. I got the pigment ready. It's just I can't even package it and deploy it yet because I got other things that I need to kind of figure out. The other thing about it is, you know, dispensing it, like filling the bottles and all that stuff, getting like that process is, it could be very simple, but also a giant pain in the butt. And if, you know, if I've got to fill hundreds of bottles, it ain't going to be fun if I'm doing it the most difficult possible way. So I'm trying to figure out, you know, before I even start, like get a good system down. But like I said, we got the coral, we got the not Tiffany blue, the robin's egg blue, and we got, I think it was army green. Was it the 3, 2, 4? Yeah, those 3 colors are going to be coming out pretty soon. And I'll probably have some more coming too. I've got, you know, I've been working on a lot of things, but a lot of the colors right now are just trying to finish out my team color, you know, matches. But they all be coming soon. Actually, I got a question for you guys. I'm going to put a poll up. This would be a good place to. How do I do a poll? Engage with your audience. That's what I want to do. I'd like to engage with you guys for a second here. So my question for you guys is, for pigments, for liquid pigments, and frankly, I don't even know if I have yeah, I guess I do. It's not going to be what it is, but I do have some sample bottles. So the question for you guys is, I have a little bit of a dilemma. What size bottles is kind of a little bit of a dilemma, and I may have to just make a decision based on numbers. But so, you know, pretty much everybody else that sells pigments, they generally sell like a 1 ounce and a 4 ounce, maybe a 2 ounce. The problem is, what I'm finding, these 1 ounce bottles, number one, the ones that are cheaper, and I'm going to put quotations around that, they're HDPE and they're really hard. They're really kind of, you know, and the Divine Pigments, it's the same thing. They're not terrible. I mean, they're obviously usable, but they're not my favorite personally. And the problem is these 1 ounce bottles compared to a 2 ounce bottle are pretty expensive, honestly. And you know, for this to work out, obviously the numbers need to work. So my question is going to be for the poll, 1 ounce or 2 ounce. What I'd like to do possibly is just come out with 2 ounce bottles, at least to start. Just go with 2 ounce. That's it, because these things are way cheaper if you just go to a 2 ounce. The thing is, it's kind of hard. You're going to have to double the price. You know, it's twice as much pigment at that point. So I I'm going to put in the poll, what would you guys rather see? 1 ounce or is 2 ounce okay? Like you don't really, it's not that big of a deal for the amount. One of the things that I will say, depending on what color it is, sometimes you need to put quite a bit in when you're dealing with these things. Some of them are a little bit more translucent than others, so you got to use more. So it's not like you can just add a drop. So in that case, like personally for me, the other problem is I'm biased, but I make blanks, right? So I go through pigment and I don't even want to mess with a 1 ounce bottle because I'm going to be buying another one pretty quick usually. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put 1 ounce and 2 ounce in the poll. And basically if you pick 2 ounce, then you're like, yeah, whatever, go with the 2 ounce if it's a little bit cheaper. So let's see here. And feel free, like, if you're, be honest also. Like, if you want a 1 ounce bottle, that's the question. If you're like, yeah, I'd much rather have a 1 ounce, especially the biggest problem is if you want to just try a color, kind of sucks having to buy a 2 ounce bottle. And I understand that. But like I said, when you're looking at the price tag of these things, literally the 2 ounce bottle's cheaper than the 1 ounce. And I'm like, okay, really? Could you just make it the same? So let's do a poll. So I'll do 1 ounce, I'll do 2 ounce. And down the road, I may come out with larger sizes like a 4 ounce or something like that, but to start, we're just gonna do 1 or 2. The other thing for me is if it's just 2 ounce bottles, that's it. 2 ounce bottles are gonna be a lot easier to fill, I think. But it'll be interesting to see what you guys think. So like I said, the poll's up there. Let me know what you guys think about it. There's other considerations too, because I know a lot of you guys that follow me are probably like, whatever, I don't really care. The colors look good. You showed me how to use them. But the other thing that's in the back of my mind about this is we're all mostly pen makers. It just kind of makes sense that most of you guys are probably pen blank, pen makers, or, like bottle stoppers and things like that, but kind of turning focused and mostly pen. What would be great is if I do start selling pigments, it's really going to need to be broadened to other, knife making. That's a huge community. And just like the jewelry and resin art kind of people, like if you could break into those markets, then it really kind of makes sense to sell this stuff, like make it bigger. But it may be hard to, people that don't even know who I am and don't care, but they're like, oh, there's this new pigment. Do they want to spend more money to get a 2 ounce bottle and that's the only option, or 1 ounce, would that be better? That's the problem that I have in the back of my mind, is trying to get it in front of people being a new product. But these bottles, man, I'm telling you, bottles are so expensive. This whole thing is crazy once I got into this. So anyway, guys, let's do some blanks. So what I'm going to do today, I have a lot of stuff. This week has been nuts with other things that I've had to do outside of work. So what I'm going to do is we're going to actually try to knock out, this may go totally sideways, but I thought, usually I do like one at a time. Today we're just going to do, I have an idea in mind for the design. So it's not like we're going to try different things or do anything. I know what colors, let's, go for that one. But let's try to do 2. To be honest, I've never even done this myself. Let's try to see if we can get 2 full molds poured at once. I think it should be fine, but you never know. I think, like I said, even for when I'm doing, mass, doing blanks, I usually only do 1 at a time because I'm so worried about screwing up, and I don't want to screw up 2 of them and then have to wait till tomorrow. I'm really bad at scaling blank making, but let's try to make 2 at a time. I mean, we're just going to do 1 batch today, or, one pour, let's say. But it should be kind of fun to see how this goes. You can see if, and I'll tell you if I'm like, I don't know if I would do that with these. I do think it's pretty simple. I don't know. It's not that hard to do the 2 of the 6 blank ones, and definitely I think you can do 2 of the 4 blank tall ones. So last week we were using these, and to be honest, what I think I might do for the team color blanks, I may end up just actually purchasing the big P-Town ones of these things, like the 3/4 inch. Thing is, the big one, it's a 12 blank mold. They're a little bit taller, and 5 1/4 would be actually where I want to be for my team color blanks. So I'm like, I could make a bunch of molds, or I could just buy them from P-Town. So I think I might actually do that, and then that'll be 12. Which, you know, these are 7 blank molds, the round ones. And it's not that I don't like my 7 blank molds, but I don't know. I'm just talking, guys. I'm just talking and doing stuff. So let's go to the overhead. We're going to do 2 of these guys, which means you got to mix up more. Now, what I've got, I did a pre-mix. We're going to do kind of this like lime green. For the green, it's going to be nice and bright. I mixed up a little, I think I'm going to have to mix more of this. Maybe. I mixed up a pink. So what do you guys, is that focusing? What do you guys think of that pink? Is that decent? Just kind of did my own little mixing with that. Thought it was kind of nice. It's kind of a, I don't know, light. We'll have to see how it looks in the resin. I might have to actually make more of that. Now that I thought about it, we're doing two batches. I'm not sure how much. Let's see. Actually, I think that's enough. Let me just look at something. Yeah, that's probably enough. Yeah, that's enough. I don't need to make more. Okay, so we got green. And then what I'm going to do, I got to be honest, guys. I think my new favoriteest white is Snow White. Whichever way that goes. This one is really good. So one of the ones that I really like, that I've liked for a long time, is the Pearl-X Micro Pearl. It's like if you're going for like a real pearl look, that one's always been the best for me. I really like it because it's a really fine powder. But the problem is it's like kind of clumpy. Like it's so fine that it clumps up in your cup, and you have to kind of mix it for longer. Whereas Snow White is also pretty fine, but it's not clumpy. Like it gives you the same kind of effects, pretty much the same exact effect, and it doesn't clump. So I really like that. Now, another alternative that I have liked, I think that the Micro Pearl is a little bit better. That's why I haven't really used it a lot, but the Shide, I don't know, whatever. Is that what it's called? So it's an eye candy color. And they got a lot. There's probably other ones that, I don't know. They have too many of the same color. And I'm like, I'm not going to buy 50 different mica powders. You know, it's tough sometimes. Yeah. Shide, which I'm pretty sure Turner's carries. Let's see. I'm just looking. Where's their search bar? Yeah. Yeah, they've got Icicle and Shida. Icicle is more like, kind of like the Macro Pearl looking thing. But the Shida, and that one works pretty good, and it gives you a pretty good pearly look. It's just a little bit thicker, or like bigger particles, I would say, kind of. I don't know. I might have to kind of do a little comparison. These might be pretty much the same type of thing, but I've been really happy with this Snow White. So anyway, that's a long dissertation on, I really like this one. And the funny thing is I'm like, oh, it's just like white pearl. Because like white pearl in many of the other micas is not particularly exciting. There is a difference between like a Micro Pearl, and it has to do with how small the particles are. So when it starts looking like more like powdered sugar, that's a super fine particle, and they tend to give you a better pearl, I think, at least to my eyes. So anyway, I think we're just gonna make a gigantic mess because I don't really want to put 2 buckets. We can get these things pretty close to each other. Do that, should be pretty good. Might be a little messy though. And I think I might try to do the kind of two cups at a time type thing. I've been having fun messing with that. So we might kind of do that. What I might do is actually mix up a little bit more white, just a little bit, and then do like a color and a white and a color and a white at the same time, and just see how these blanks turn out. I'm really excited to turn one of these things next week, though. Should be pretty fun. Let's see here. PVC molds. I have them. What I don't like is having to spray the molds every single time, put plugs in them every single time, and do all that stuff. It's not fun. They bend eventually. So PVC is fine, and it's very cheap and it's easy. I would much rather just deal with silicone personally. Now, someday, and if somebody sold this, there's a lot of people that I know that are actually using metal pipes. And I might be willing to switch to metal pipes if I could just buy them from someone. I don't want to have to make them myself, because I would want to polish the insides and do a lot of stuff. But if somebody sold metal pipes, they're never going to bend, or, you know, like, you're not going to hurt them with the temperatures that we're dealing with and all that stuff. You just can't do it. PVC, certain resins get hot enough when they're curing in the pressure pot or wherever. Especially like your general epoxies, even just Alumilite Clear regular, it gets hotter than Clear Slow. But even with Clear Slow, which is what I use for this stuff typically, eventually that heat will warp the PVC, and then you got to go get more and you know, cut them and do all that stuff and plug them. But the spraying, constant spraying of every single pipe every single time and doing all that stuff, and sometimes they get stuck. I was like, I'd rather just deal with silicone. So that's a personal preference, but, you know, if you're just getting into this and you don't make blanks, you know, repeatedly over and over again, then yeah, I would highly recommend skipping these, because they cost a lot of money. That's the problem with silicone. And they wear out. You may see on this, you know, the surface is kind of, you know, this is what it looked like originally on the side. It's nice and kind of vibrant red, and you can see it's dulling, right? That's your silicone mold getting old and wearing out, basically. Let me show you another. Oops. I had to retire one of my molds, and I had to make some more. I stopped using the red, but here's pretty much a brand new one. I've used it a few times. Here's an old one of the white one, and it was getting to the point where this top and the insides of the top were really, what happens is it hardens, and then the resin sticks to it. And even if you're using mold release and all that stuff, you know, silicone wears out. It has a finite life. That's the way it works. There's no silicone out there that's going to be resilient forever. So, you know, there's drawbacks to silicone molds. They're so easy. I don't spray them. Now, if you're using epoxy, I would highly recommend spraying your molds, regardless of what, you know, what it's made. It doesn't matter if it's like PVC or metal or whatever. Epoxy tends to stick to stuff, and it also wears out your molds a lot faster than urethane, which is what Alumilite Clear Slow is. See, urethane. So that's another reason why I like Alumilite Clear. It's a little bit less harsh on your mold. Anyway, all right, let's get going here. Talking about stuff. Okay, so today is 4/12. We're doing spring colors. And let's see, I'm just double checking to make sure. Yeah, the metal pipes. Yeah, resin doesn't stick to metal, and the thing is, that's another reason you really, you can't just go buy, whatever metal pipe, like galvanized pipe, and just deal with it. I think I don't know, and I haven't talked to somebody that's been like, oh, this is exactly what I use, but you would want, frankly, I would just want a nice polished inside of the tube. One, it's not going to stick as much. No resin likes sticking to polished surfaces. It's a mechanical bond that resin creates with stuff, you know, like epoxies and even CA glues and stuff. They always tell you to kind of rough the surface up. That's what they mean by mechanical bond. It needs something to kind of grab into, grooves and stuff. So if it's a really messed up surface, then it'll stick. But if it's polished, you know, resin doesn't stick to metal necessarily. So, and you would, you know, in that case, you'd have to spray the pipes with mold release and stuff probably. But you know, if it does get stuck, you can kind of, you're not going to damage a metal pipe. I don't think, like, the lifespan of a metal pipe is going to be, you know, forever probably. And it's never going to bend or tweak or do anything weird. So there's advantages to that. I think that would be pretty expensive, but again, you're not going to have to replace them. I would imagine probably never. You might have to repolish them or something. But that's just kind of like get a honing thing, and but I don't want to do all that work. If somebody sold them, I would be interested in just buying some. All right, so we're only doing one. We're doing a double batch. And let's see, so each one of these guys, we're not going to mix, usually I mix up 400. These don't take 400 grams. It's just I use the excess to make these little faux burl guys, which I've got like at least 2 of these packs. I sell a pack of 10 of these overpours. Now they're not pressurized, so just be aware of that. There may be little air bubbles and stuff, but I've turned a bunch of these things and it's not that big of a deal. But they're, I think, $10 maybe, or something like that. Actually, there might even be, how do I do that? Hold on, I gotta go to my website. Now I can't remember what I do. That's not the way. That's not what I want. Okay, yeah, it's a 10 pack for $10. So you get 10 of these little guys, and they're all mixed, you know, random colors. 10 of them for $10. If you make stoppers and want some just cheap things, now you're gonna have to recast them with the clear. It just comes with this thing, but. Anyway, so I always use that excess resin for stuff, but this time pretty much like 380 grams is pretty good for these things. So we're just going to double that, maybe a little bit more than that. We'll have to see how much resin is that. 380 times 2. We're looking like 760. Yeah, I think that'll be enough. 380 times 2. And then we're going to do 3 colors. Now, like I said, I want to do a little bit more white. So if we just split this in half, we'd be looking at about 250 each. So if we did like 400 white, and then let's see here, 760 minus 400. Yeah, and then we'd have like 180. Seems like a lot. Let's not do that. What did I say? 760 divided by 3 is about 250. Let's do like 300 for white. And then we've got 460 left, so that's 230, I think. Yeah. Yeah, that ought to be pretty good. White, we got green, and we got pink. All right, so what I'm going to do here, the pink is one of the things when you're dealing with these pigments, the opaque ones. If there's a lot of white in them, then generally you don't need as much to get it opaque. And the pink's got quite a bit of white. You know, pink is easy. It's just white and red. There's variants that you can do to kind of adjust the colors and stuff. But generally, if you want pink, you know, just add a lot of white to red. And then this lime green doesn't have a lot. So I think what we can do is go with like probably like 1% of the so 2.3 grams of pink. And then I'm going to do like 2% for the green, which would be 4.6. I don't need to use a calculator. And then for the white, you know, it's going to be pretty solid. We'll put in, let's see here, half. Put in like, we'll try 1 teaspoon and see how that goes of the powder, the Snow White. All right, so we need a big bucket. So you guys can, let's zoom out so you can kind of see what's going on. I'm gonna go back real quick. So I'm gonna drop a link. Oh, does it say sold out? I've got like 2 packs of those things. Hold on a minute. Let me go into my store. I just need to put them in boxes. I've got at least 2 of those 10 packs of the faux burls. So let me go and I just haven't added it to the inventory. I think I actually have 3, but I don't know for sure. I know I have 2 for sure. So here's a link to the faux burl 10 packs on my website if anybody's interested in those guys. Let's see, I'm just double checking to make sure there's no questions or anything. Yeah, okay. So 760, we should be able to, what I'm going to use this TCP Global bucket mixing cup. I don't like these ones. I gotta be honest, they're super brittle. Like when you're trying to pop out, you know, that thing's got a bunch of stuff on it. Let me see if I can find, there's a clean one. Like when you're trying to pull the, you know, the residue out from the previous mixing, these things tend to break really easy, but they're a little bit bigger than most of the other cups that I use. So these are the other 2. I really like these mountain cups. They're pretty cheap. You can get them on Amazon. They're like your typical, but I mean, if you look at it, this is going to hold a lot more. So if I'm pouring something that's getting close to like, you know, 600, 700, 800 grams of resin, then I usually pull this one out just because it works better, but it's bigger than both of these guys. It holds more volume. So, like I said, I don't like them, but I bought a bunch of them and I still got them, so we're going to use that. Hopefully I have enough resin. I might have to fill this jug up. Let's see here. So we're doing 380. Oh, I got enough for that, I think. 380. Okay, we got 380 of part A. Lumelite Clear Slow is a 1-to-1 by weight mixture. Where can you get bulk? Honestly, I just buy them on Amazon. The mountain, let's see, I think I can get a link to the mountain ones. I mean, you could probably find them like somewhere else, maybe for even cheaper. I just haven't really looked that hard. I haven't found any that you can get like, I don't know, super bulk. See if I can find this. I haven't bought one for a while. The nice thing is with the mixing cups, you know, they you can reuse them. So a lot of times it's you don't really need a lot of them. That's another reason why, like, I don't need 10,000 of these things. Like if I could find like a bigger number that was actually a better price on just cups, I would try to do that. But where do I get? Oh, there's the link. So here's the link to these the mountain cups. I like them probably the best. They work. They're pretty easy to get the stuff out. One thing also with the mixing cups, I've been testing out. I usually in the past would always take out You know, if I use this cup once, like, and there's, you know, residue from the last pour, I would pull it out before I started a new one. And in some cases I would do that, but it was kind of a habit that I got into because I used a lot of dyes. You don't want to mix dyes. I didn't want to mess up a color that I had matched. So I'd always pull it out. But Jim Godoy was in his thing at Turner's Warehouse. He's like, oh, I use them like, you know, I just dump the resin in here. And I know Chad does it too. I just never had really tried it. But I started trying it, and frankly, you can just leave the cured thing in there at least, you know, 4 or 5 times and just reuse it. These are pretty easy to pop out the stuff, the Mountain brand, whatever. Like I said, TCP Global's all right. I think they actually might even probably be more expensive. That's another reason why. And then they break when you try and pull the stuff out. So I was like, these are terrible. So there's a link to the Mountain cups. Another thing that you can do is they actually sell, and this is a tip that I got from Elise over at Starry Night Resins. These are like the to-go cup things that you can find. I think I found these on Amazon somewhere. These work pretty good too, and they release pretty well. They're a little bit different. I don't know what the price tag is compared to the Mountain and TCP and all that. It's just, I don't know. They're a little bit taller and skinnier, but I think they hold about the same amount of resin. They're not graduated though, so you know, if you're doing anything where you need volume measurements, probably go with these instead. So anyway, all kinds of craziness. All right, so part B. Let's do 380 grams of part B. Oh, oh my God, I went way over. I was like, my brain started thinking about, I don't know what. Shoot. Wow, way over. Okay, so I gotta add 15, Jesus, 15 grams of part A again. We got plenty of resin. This is one of the reasons why I like 1-to-1. Like when you mess up that bad, it's pretty easy to come back and just add, you know, a little extra part A. Okay, that's close enough. Jeez, we'll have plenty. Okay, so here's our giant cup, and it fits, you know, like, you know, we did 760 grams. I mean, this fits well. It would have fit in the Mountain cups, but this is even easier. I can get the wrist action going, you know, get the stuff mixed up quick, not worry about spilling it too much. So, Marquetta's here. How's it going? Yeah, don't buy them from Home Depot. Those are, I mean, they're like $2 a cup or something like that, something crazy. The Mountain cups are like 50 cents a cup, which, you know, there's probably better deals somewhere maybe on stuff. But that's one of the tough things though, is I really, not all of these mixing cups are equal, let's say. And so the Mountain ones are pretty good. That's another thing where I'm like, well, it may cost a little bit more. Maybe I could buy some other brand, you know, 5,000 of them or something like that, and only spend 35 cents a cup or something. But I know that the Mountain cups work pretty well for me, so, you know, that's fine. 50 cents, it's still better than $2. Or even if it's only $1, I mean, you're talking half price. I don't know what the TCP Global ones are. That would be good to look up. I'll do that after. I gotta focus here because we got a double pour going. This is gonna be pretty crazy, guys. Like I said, I really don't do that much because I'm so worried about messing something up. That's why I like the YouTube thing. I can kind of test things and like, if it doesn't work, you know, we all learn something. All right, so I'm just gonna, well, let's see here. So how much is it gonna be there? Yeah, I'm gonna break it into 3 cups. One of the tough things for me is trying to pour 2 different size cups at the same time. Like, I don't really want to leave the white in this mixing cup because I already have enough problems trying to pour 2 cups at one time. I'm just not that coordinated. So the other issue is sometimes, like, if you leave a much, like if you put not a lot of resin in a big, like wide cup, sometimes that resin won't heat up as fast as something that you've put like the same amount of resin in a smaller, smaller and like not as wide of a cup. All right, so we got about 300 in there. We're going to go with a teaspoon. And I'm going to see how I feel about the teaspoon. So I've got little teaspoon things here, so we'll just plop it. Another thing you can do is add a little bit of white if you want to make sure that it's, that it's opaque. You can add a little bit of white pigment or dye, whatever you want to call it. The liquid stuff. You got to watch out how much you put in there, though. A little bit goes a long way, and the more you put in, the less pearly you're going to get. I usually do put in white pigment with when I'm going for like a pearl. So I'm going to kind of look at this, see how I feel. We might just kind of keep it, because I think that's probably pretty good. Sometimes if you add a little bit of the white pigment, it kind of whitens it a little bit more sometimes, which I kind of like the look of that sometimes. So I don't know. I'm going to look at this, see how I feel. It's kind of hard. This is a metal stir stick, and I think what I'm going to do is we're going to add I'm just going to add like a few drops of the white. White pigment. Maybe like 0.2 grams. How about that? Doesn't need a lot, like I said. Just kind of brightens it up a little bit to my eyes. And like I said, the white pigment can kind of add a little bit of opacity, make it a little bit less see-through. I don't think it would have been with that amount in there, but I like that shade, that color better. All right, so then we're going to do 230 grams. Let's zero the scale out there. 230. Okay. And then we'll just call this one the green. And I'm going to put 4.6 grams of the green in. That's about 2%. Probably didn't even need that much, honestly. Look at that color. What do you guys think of that? Pretty bright. Myra's asking, can you mix mica with 2-part epoxy? Sure. Oh, when you're gluing in tubing. Yeah, you can do that. Dye, you need to watch out a little bit. If you add too much, it could cause issues with the cure. Pigment powder, like those things, you can add as much as you want. It's not going to affect anything. But you can do both. But like I said, be a little bit cautious with the liquid stuff, because the problem with the liquids is to make it liquid. It's basically, liquid pigments. It's not like the color is liquid. The color is a bunch of dry particles of color, dry pigment, mixed in with something that is a liquid. All right, and so that's what the problem actually is. Oh, did I screw something up here? Huh. What did I do? Okay, we're going to have a little bit less pink, I guess. Huh. What's going on here? Huh. Did I not zero it? Yeah, I did. What the heck? This is what I get for talking. Okay, so that's like 300. That's 230. Why is this only one? I think I screwed something up with the mix. Did I not do the mixture right? 4.6 of green will not be translated. I think I screwed up the mixture. Shoot. What am I missing, guys? Because that's not even close to correct. Did I only do 280 times 2? I might have only done 280. Or I did 380 and 280. That's where I'm a little bit worried, because if I didn't do equal parts, then this whole batch is 2 batches. This is why I don't do 2 batches, guys. Especially when I'm doing a live stream. I'm pretty much at this point going to throw this out, because I don't know what I did. And I don't want to waste. I'd rather just dump this stuff in the trash than mess with something else. Let's see. So minus 300 minus 280. No, that's not right. How did I mess that up? Anybody know? Yeah, the math is definitely not mathing today. I'm done with this. I'd honestly, I'd rather just throw this away. We can dump it into something, I guess, but I don't even really want to waste the pressure pot on this stuff, because I got a lot of other things that I got to do today. That kind of sucks, but whatever. Like I said, I'm more interested in getting good blanks and doing a good experiment pouring these things. If I screwed up the ratio I mean, it is warming up. I don't know what's going on. We're dumping this. I don't have time to mess with this right now. We're gonna start over, guys. It's just not worth it. When you absolutely have no clue why you can't add up all the numbers, then you probably are better off just moving on. Like I said, I would pour it or do something, but I don't want to waste a pressure pot today. I don't have time for that. So it's okay. I'd rather just screw up before we even poured than come tomorrow and find out that the blanks are all jacked up. All right. Now I am going to have to refill my jugs over there. That's what I get for talking, not paying attention. It's okay, Myra. We were running out of time too, so we'll move on. We'll do it right this time. But I do need to go and get some more resin for these jugs, because yeah, I'm pretty yeah. I don't know. I'm looking at the part B jug and it's more full, so I'm thinking what I probably did was 280 with the part B, instead of 380. That would make sense. But not really knowing, I'm not going to be like, oh, that's probably what it is. We just need to add 100 grams. So it's okay. I got another 10 gallons of clear slow on the way. But I do have to, sorry, we'll have to take a second and refill these. And the problem at that point, like trying to, calculate, even if we figured out that I put 230 or what, I think it was 2. I think that's what it was. I think I ended up with 295 was the number, but I needed 380. I know I went over, but yeah. But then trying to figure out how much part B to add to each one of those cups after I've already poured it out, that ain't gonna really be fun. So it's okay. Sometimes you just got to throw the resin away. It was a big one, but it definitely helps if you're going to be doing something with a lot of resin. It's not easy to be distracted doing other stuff, like not paying full attention to it. So that is one lesson that I can share with you guys. And that's why a lot of times, like, I don't do a lot of big things like on the stream and all that stuff, because when I'm alone and nobody's bothering me in the shop, or anything like that, and I can just sit there and focus on it, yeah, I'll do, larger or more difficult things. But if there's a lot of stuff going on around me, a lot of times I'll wait to do complicated things or big things, because it's so easy to get distracted enough to like not pay attention, like miss some crucial thing that you needed to not miss. I really liked those colors though. They looked good in the cups. For anybody that hasn't bought it, Alumilite Clear Slow is, the part B is usually much thicker than the part A, and it tends to come out, a little bit different. But the other thing is that the part B is heavier. This always kind of stumps people, because you'll get your, like let's say you bought 2 gallons, the 2-gallon kit, and they'll get their jugs, and the part B has like visibly less resin in it, and it's because it's a mixture by weight. That's another thing, a lot of well, yeah. If the instructions specifically state that it's, you mix it by weight, a lot of times the part A and the part B may not weigh the same amount, and so the B jug generally has less resin in it, so it kind of freaks people out, and they're like, oh, you shorted me. But the reality is it's gonna be equal when you weigh it out, so don't let that bother you. It is normal. Okay, so we're gonna go back and do 380 grams of part A. Here we go. And if this one doesn't turn out right, I don't know what, physics has collapsed. Okay, we got 380.6, that's fine. Put about 381 in the next one. I was looking at the cup and it didn't feel, I was like, wow, there's really not that much. I didn't really need to pull out this giant cup. It's because there was 100 grams less than I needed. 380, and I'm just gonna go to 381. I don't really have a problem putting a little extra part B in when you're using this specific resin. That can kind of be, especially on really small pours, it's actually beneficial to put a little bit extra part B in. It'll help keep it from blushing, because the resin, this slower version, there's also a regular version that has about a 5 to 7 minute working time. There we go. Now that looks like, that's what I was thinking, a little bit bigger. But they have a regular version of the clear, and it works excellent also. But it is a quicker, you know, you got to get things done faster. You only have 5 to 7 minutes. This has about a 12-minute working time, which I think is kind of the sweet spot. I don't like the 30-minute ones. You're just standing there waiting for resin if you're doing color swirls and stuff. It's just not fun for me. I got better things to do. But the other nice thing is this, you know, it's got a quicker working time. So if you got a really complicated, difficult thing to do, even a 12-minute working time may not work. Like if you're trying to do micarta, don't use this. It's not going to work. Frankly, for micarta, I actually use deep pour, which has a 2-hour working time. Then you don't even have to worry about it. So different resins for different uses. But I find that I like the trade-offs with this. If you need something, if you need to turn over, which I'm actually thinking about possibly getting the regular, going back to that for probably having both clear, the slow and the regular on hand. What I'm finding is I got to wait a little bit longer than I want to with the pressure pots with this. If all my blanks end up going to these round ones with Alumilite clear, I'm finding that I'm kind of running into roadblocks with running out of pressure pots, basically. So as long as it's not a super difficult or complicated pour, I can use their regular version. It's like exactly the same, like turning aspects, the clarity and all that stuff, like all of the characteristics of the resin. It doesn't matter which one you get, the regular or the clear. It's just the working time. But the other thing is you only have to leave it in the pressure pot for like 45 minutes, maybe an hour, depending on temperatures and stuff. So it's a pretty good one. All right, so this one's going to get 300 grams. Let's see if let's see if this works out correct. Let's see how this goes. 300 grams, right? Yep, 300 grams apart of both. This is going to be the white. And I put 0.2 grams. I went a little over, that's okay. 0.2 grams of the white dye or pigment, whatever you want to call it. Liquid pigment in there. Now we put 0.3, that's fine. Either way, it's not a big deal. I'm going to actually stir that in. Can you guys see? Yeah, you can see. So this, you can see what 0.3 grams. Now in this cup, it's going to look a lot more like it's like totally opaque. But when I pull it out, it's pretty semi-translucent, that 0.3 grams of white. And if you're using the Alumilite, so this one's more of the other type of liquid pigment, more like Divine Pigments that I'm using right now. The Alumilite white dye is a little less like strong, I guess, or whatever, diluted. It's like more diluted than like the Divine Pigment style. So just like a little warning, you to get the same exact amount of opacity or you know how transparent, you'd have to put more of the Alumilite white dye in compared to like Divine Pigments, if you guys are familiar with that one. All right, so now we're going with our green. It's going to be 4.6 grams is what we're putting in. This was 230 grams of resin. Frankly, I'm going to test out. I don't think we need that much even. I'm going to try 2.3 real quick. 2.5, that's fine. I want to see what this looks like because I think that's probably enough. Yeah, this is, let me get it fully mixed in. That's another thing. Make sure, you know, if you're looking at the opacity and all that stuff, like give it a couple seconds of mixing because it sometimes kind of takes a little bit for it to really get mixed in well. And then pull it out. Yeah, I think that's fine. I really can't see anything through there. Let's just put 3 grams. Then I'm pretty much sure. So I'm going to add another 0.5 grams to this. I'm going to change my notes. 3 grams looks like plenty. I didn't need 2%. The full 2%. Frankly, I think we would have been fine with that 2.5. But let's see here. So we're going to switch this. 3 grams. And then I think the pink, did we add the pink yet? I don't even think we added the pink, did we? I think that's when we got derailed. I was like, what's going on? Oh, look at that. That seems a little bit more, well, still seems like it's a little bit off. Part of the thing is usually I'll add more, like I would mix up for like a good 10 to 15 more grams if I'm, because the problem is you are going to leave some in the cup, and that happens no matter what. There's no way that you can get every ounce of resin out. So it looks like we're a little bit under, but that's normal. Not being 100 grams off. I was like, what's going on? Something's absolutely wrong. So 220. I think I can actually scrape this just a little bit better to get a little bit more out. Get it closer. This is like backwards. Let me do it this way. Okay, I'm calling that good. We're a little bit under on the pink, but that's, like I said, that's kind of to be expected a little bit. I would usually add, like for this, you know, like it's 760 is what we needed total for all the cups, which is 380 times 2. Usually what I do, if I know that I'm going to not be using the mixing cup, I would have made it like 385 times 2, which is 10. It's you know, it's kind of to be expected to like leave around me, you know, in one of those big mixing cups. 10 grams is probably about what you're going to leave in there. So we want 2.3 of this pink. That should be plenty, I think. We still need to put in the pearl powder. Ooh, I like that. What do you guys think of this pink? It's pretty nice. It's kind of nice and light. And with this green, I don't know how your screen is making this look. It's a little bit duller than my screen looks like. The green isn't as like bright looking as my screen. I've found that I go back on my streams, and like my screen doesn't really portray the colors that well. It's actually better on the live stream. So what you're seeing is probably pretty close, I think. But man, I like that. I like those color combinations. I like that mixture of pink. It's not too bad. I haven't really mixed a lot of pink. It's just not a color that comes up with team colors too much. So haven't had a lot of experience making different shades of pink, but that one turned out pretty good. It was just kind of a wild guess on the mixture. So we add our teaspoon of the Snow White, this guy, the P-Town subby one. Kev's here, what's up? Yeah, it's Easter colors too. That's true. Chris likes the pink. Easter in a basket, yeah. Yeah, it is a little bit Pepto-y. But I think, so the thing is, like in the cup also, and this is one of the issues that I've been having, trying to, you know, match like team colors and stuff. A lot of times, you know, what it looks like in the cup is pretty close. I mean, it's not like it's going to be significantly different, but once you turn the blank and also put the colors together, the end result somewhat can change your perception of like what that color really looks like. Also, because it's a round thing, you know, your pen, the light hitting it in different areas and stuff like that kind of changes the colors, or like I mean, it is what it is, but it makes the color look a little bit different. Usually, a lot of times certain colors can look a little darker. So it's been kind of a tough thing trying to match these colors, because, you know, I get these little samples, or I put it in the cup and I'm like, yep, dead on. And then I turn a sample blank and I'm like, whoa, that's not really what I was going for. Or like, that's too dark. You can't really see it very well. Different things like that. So it's kind of it's been an interesting thing doing all this pigment work. It's a little bit different than the first time I did it because we're dealing with a different resin, and I'm also a little bit, I'm kind of scrutinizing things a little bit more because I actually have a little bit more control now. I've learned some new tricks, and I have a better, I don't know, it's a little bit easier not having to deal with white resin. That was one of the other issues with the Alumilite white, because immediately it desaturates things. So you have to overcome that a little bit or just deal with it. So you have like a wider range of things that you can do with the clear. But one of the problems is the less saturated things, or like the more saturated your colors are, typically the more transparent that pigment is. So it's kind of a trade-off. Then you got to deal with that. Always a learning process, guys. Always learning. All right, so we're going to pour these guys. Let's see here. So we changed that to 3. We got that. Okay, so I don't think I'm going to do any mixing or stirring. I don't want it to like bleed or do anything weird. We're also doing that 2-cup pour method. I kind of just want to see how that works out. So the temperature in my shop is 70 degrees Fahrenheit right now. So I think what we're going to do is pour these guys at, I think 105 would be fine. Maybe even higher. We could go a little higher than that maybe. We have twice as many holes to fill. So let's just go with 105. See how that goes. So let's see what temperature we're at here. 101. I have been kind of dilly-dallying, as they like to say. So we're almost ready to pour these guys. So we're at 101. So we should be there shortly. Now I like to, let's see here, let's get these cups back. We'll get this thing right in the middle. I'm going to kind of tilt that. I don't know, that's fine. Thinking about how I do this. I like to have a little cup handy so that I can just drop the stir sticks in there. So I don't really need to stir. I'm just going to go off of the temperature of the white one. So we're at 103 on that one. So you need to give it, you really don't want the stir sticks in if you're doing this 2-cup method. A lot of times on 1 cup at a time, you can kind of get the stick out of the way and it's not a big deal. But if you're doing 2, you're going to have problems. So the white's at 105.5, so I think we're ready to go. So let's try this out here. I may spill this all over the place, but that's part of the fun. Now there's a couple different ways that I can go with this. You can also just pick up 2 and then pour 1. You know, we'll do that on the like kind of the first one. Then we'll go back to our pink and white and pour those together. Oh, I kind of filled that one already. That's one of the problems that I have with this 2-cup method is like I kind of end up filling it like way too quickly. But it's not that big of a deal. I miss and do all that kind of, you know, craziness. But the other problem is I tend to pour my left hand. You can see there's a lot more pink and green and not much white. Now that might have just been because of the way that I did that, but we're going to go back here and do pink and green at the same time. I get a little, see what I mean? It's a little bit messier when I do it this way, but so far I've gotten pretty decent results doing this, even though it is just a gigantic mess. But, you know, this is the thing. Like, you can do different pouring techniques and all this kind of stuff, and try to do, you know, this or that with it. But the beauty of resin casting is almost, no matter what you do, it's probably going to be fine. Like, I don't know. Very rarely have I poured blanks in one way or another. Maybe it's not exactly what I wanted, like the specific thing that I really wanted, but very rarely have I been like, wow, that technique is terrible. Like you cannot do it that way, kind of thing, you know. Usually you'll be fine. It's not a big deal. Now, if I hadn't missed half of this resin and dumped it over the side, I probably would be not running out of resin right now. Do I have any more white left? Oh man. I do like to get these things pretty much full. They're just a little bit easier to pop out of the molds. I'm just going to take these gloves off because they're, well, I should have. It was preemptive, guys. It was preemptive. But I got to get these things in the pressure pot pretty quickly here. All right, so what I'm going to do actually, because they're so messy, I don't want to get them like stuck to my pressure pots or anything. We are going to put these guys, oh, geez. They're very slippery. I'm going to put them in these buckets. I couldn't really get my gloves on very well. Now that they're in the buckets, I can get my gloves off. Actually, I don't know if I can fit 2 of these buckets. See, this is why you got to test things out first, see how it works. 2 buckets, not going to work. Forgot about that. I do have a thing in the bottom of my pressure pot, so it's okay. All right, into the pressure pot. Oh, I don't, oh, shoot. That's okay. Okay. Whew. So, we made it. It was a little bit hectic. Part of that, though, like really is just because I don't really do that often. But overall, I think it worked out fine. Just going to kind of clean up a little bit here. I like to wipe off my stir sticks right away. That way they're like ready to be used immediately. And I think I was okay on time. It was getting pretty thick there, but you've probably got offhand, I don't know. It's only 70 degrees in here. You probably have until like 120 to 130 before things are possibly too late. Now, I don't know what temperature that got to, but you know, once you pour it into a tube, it's not going to accelerate that temperature as fast as if it was like a bigger mass in a cup also. So this is, you know, you've got a little bit more time. Might have been on the edge a little bit because I was kind of messing around at the end there. But I think, you know, there's plenty of time, depending on the temperature in your shop and what's going on, to get 2 of these batches done. I think it's easier if you're really focused, a lot better focused than I was. But now, you know, hopefully you've seen that. It wasn't like difficult. It wasn't that big of a deal, really, I don't feel. It does get a little bit hectic, especially like the first time you do something like that, if you're doing 2. But I don't know, that wasn't that big of a deal. I would actually say, I'm going to be completely honest, guys, and I don't really have any bias for my own product. In this case, I'm going to preemptively say that, but I want to pull out something. I want to show you guys a couple different things here. Show you a couple different little things. One thing that I noticed, so those round molds kind of suck to pour two of. They're so spread apart that this isn't necessarily, it's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. You know, if you've got two of these, it's not like you can't do it. It was fine. However, if you look at this compared to these square ones with 6, this is going to be a lot easier to like pour and hit. Linear pouring, especially with the 2 cups, I think is going to be a lot easier. So the P-Town molds are not a bad way to go. Another one, and I don't know if she's selling again. Let me look. Nikki, she's a patron of mine, and she does her own stuff. She's making pens, but she makes molds. Her business is Olive Frog Designs. Yeah, she's still on break. She had a kid and she was taking a break. She makes some pretty cool molds as well, though, that are like triangular. So like they would fit together better if you were doing multiples. I want to get a few of her molds at some point. The biggest problem that I have right now with other people's molds, and this was a stupid mistake that I made, and I'm going to have to change it, but it's going to take a lot of work. But there's absolutely nothing wrong with, like, I don't even sell the tall ones, but these P-Town ones work great. They're kind of, a lot of people still use them. They're like the old standby. The issue that I had with these is they're only 8.5 to the top of the thing, which means you're really not going to get an 8.5-inch blank out of these. I didn't like that. I feel like it's better to have an 8.5-inch blank, but it's also just a pain. I don't really want to have to make my own molds necessarily. So I may switch things back. And the other thing with these, I made my own because I didn't like the length of these. I wanted 5.5. Well, now I'm kind of reconsidering all that stuff because I think I want to go with the 5 3/8, the slightly taller 12 blank mold from P-Town, and switch that. But I got to change all my pictures, the entire website. It's very fun. However, what I'm saying though is I actually think that these square ones probably would work better to pour, you know, if you're doing multiples. I mean, heck, you could line 3 of these up and you're just boom, boom, boom. It's a little bit more of a simple method. Now, the one thing though is that I have found doing the 2-color pour thing, it kind of helps to kind of move things, like possibly even rotate, switch hands with the cups. That can also kind of help things out a little bit and just get things more mixed up. So, you know, the linear approach is, I think, easier to hit the holes maybe. But it is kind of nice to be somewhat random with it and just kind of move it around. So that's just one thing that I noticed about that. Like I said, I don't do that a lot. Frankly, I usually just do one at a time and I'm like, okay, whatever. I just kind of suffer the consequences of there's only one. But I also have done that so many times that it's just like, I don't want to mess with the formula kind of thing. But anyway, I just wanted to kind of mention that. Something to think about. The P-Town, I think Turner's Warehouse is still out. I was actually... I was going to call Chad. I tried calling Chad, but he didn't answer yesterday. I wanted to see when when Turner's is thinking about getting these in, if they know. But if they don't have them, you can just go to ptownsubby.com. I know that's kind of a weird. I'm just going to drop a link to their website. This is Fred's website. He makes them. You can get them there too. So I'll drop that. If anybody, because people contact me, and I don't have a lot of. I really don't have a lot of skin in the game selling silicone molds. I don't like making them. I don't like making them for myself. So I'm less likely to, you know, I won't even make the tall ones. They're a pain. So these are not too bad, but I'm out of silicone right now anyway. So there's nothing wrong with these guys. And then if you want to look, I don't know when she's going to be back doing it, but Nikki's molds are excellent. She makes tall, short. She makes even like, I think a 12-inch. Possibly, which also P-Town sells like taller. I think it's a 10 or a 12. Let me see here. I'm going to see what their tallest one is. Yeah, they got a 12-inch mold, 3/4 by 12. And then these guys, if you're looking to do bespoke, I don't know if that's how you say it, bespoke. These are probably the best bet. These are much cheaper than mine too, because it costs a lot this is a lot of silicone to make this Gatling mold, so kind of expensive. The P-Town ones are a lot cheaper. So just to let you guys know, I don't have skin in the game. I'm not biased. I like this pattern. It is pretty cool to do it this way, but I don't know that there's a big advantage to doing the round ones. So just to let you know. Yeah, the fun funnel. I haven't tried that one yet. Let's see here. So Myra's asking, yeah, if I had known 100% that I was 100 grams low on part B, the problem was I'm like, I don't even know what I just did. I don't want to mess with it. Let's just start over. But if you know exactly what the problem was, you can just, add the correct amount of resin. What I would have had to done at that point though, I had already split it out, which means then I'm going to have to, there would have been some more math involved with that. And it just, with that much resin, and like I said, I didn't want to waste a pressure pot with a possible batch of bad blanks. I would rather just know for sure that I did it right and just throw away some resin personally. I just didn't know. Now, if you catch it though in the big cup, then it's easy. Just add a little extra part B and you're done. If you mess up the ratio for some reason. But, it'll be up to you depending on how you, my problem is these blanks are also, if it was just me turning them, it might have been fun to see what happens if you screw up the ratio far enough, like a pretty big screw up. What happens with them? That would have been an interesting experiment, but the problem is these blanks are going into the pen blank box for people that are buying blanks from me. I don't, if I have any thought in my brain that these blanks may not be as good as they should be, like 100%, then I just chuck them. I don't need to worry about it. So let's see. Yeah, I'm having a day. Yeah, it got a little messy today. It was fun. Yeah, the gloves thing. So Kev has a question. How much do they settle in the pot once the bubbles? Okay, so that's a good question. And this goes back to another reason why I like Alumilite Clear Slow, personally. When it starts getting pretty thick, you've only got a pretty short, a matter of minutes, let's say, like 5 to 8 minutes before it's like hard. It's solid pretty much. And at that point, it ain't going to move or do anything. Now, you see like epoxies and different things, they kind of have a longer, what I call a gel period. And so this is where that temperature thing, when you pour, you always want to go till like the end of the working time. Some of the longer, working time resins, your epoxies and stuff, even when it seems like it's getting super thick, you've still got like 30 minutes in the pot where it's still jelly enough. It doesn't like really kind of solidify. And so some things can move around a little bit more in the pressure pot, like once you've, dumped, pressurized it, the bubbles are removed. Whether there's the bubbles aren't the problem, or the pressure pot's not changing anything. It's just in the tube, in the mold, it doesn't matter if you had like a square one or, whatever. The resin's going to move a little bit for a certain amount of time. And so that's the thing that I like about Alumilite Clear and Clear Slow. It kind of, you get to the 12-minute mark or whatever, somewhere around there, and there's just not a very long window for it to even continue moving around. But some of the other ones, if the instructions for your resin say that you got to leave it in, it has a demold time of like 8 hours, or they may say like a tack-free or not sticky time. Generally, the demold time is kind of, how long you need to put it in the pressure pot for in general. If that's like an overnight ordeal kind of thing, like 8 hours or something like that, then that gel period is going to be a lot longer. And so your general epoxies and things like that, those are going to be a little harder to work with like that. It just typically has a little bit more time for it to kind of move around. But it's still a timing game. You can still time it correctly with those as well. It's just, I don't want to wait 40 minutes or, 30 to 40 minutes to get to that point. And your Alumilite clear, like the urethanes, typically, they kind of, once you've kind of gotten to the end of the working time, it kind of solidifies immediately. So it's a good question. It's something to think about, but it just depends on how, what the resin is, when did you pour it, how thin is the viscosity. There's all kinds of things that go on with that. But in this case, like, it really wasn't probably moving at all when I got it. Once I got it in there, pressurized it, it was probably pretty locked in place for the most part. I mean, it was still liquid, but you only had like a couple minutes for it to do anything, and it was thick enough to where it really wasn't going to move much. And I guess, going back to the epoxy thing, I don't mean to harp on the longer working time resins. And it seems like if you timed it perfect, why would it change much? Where things can get a little bit go awry with those is if you've got like one pigment is heavier than another, and you've got differing things, then that longer, what I'm going to call it like a gel period, even though it seems like super thick, it still has enough time sometimes to kind of really move if things are not all equal within your pour, I would say. So that's a good question. I like that. Oh, Amy's here. What's up? Nice. Let's see here. Just a pigment of my imagination. That's true. Slime green. Yeah, it is pretty slime greeny. I'm really excited. This is a blank pairing, color pairing that I've wanted to do for quite a while now. I did a kind of a spring flower color in it. I think I used purple instead of pink. I think it was green, purple, and white, and those looked amazing as well. I was almost maybe going to just do that one again because I knew it was a really good one, but I wanted to do pink. Mainly, I wanted to do pink because Barb has asked to do a pink thing, and she so graciously sent all those pens. I'm like, oh, let's put a little bit of pink in here. Let's get some pink going on. So anyway, let's see here. Scrolling down, seeing if there's any other questions. I don't think so. You guys are talking about deck sealing, I think. Let's see. I don't think there's any questions. Jake sells the 3D print files. That's cool. Yeah, I was thinking about doing something like that. The problem that I have, the way that, I don't know, I haven't watched, I just, his live stream, the timing is tough for me. But a lot of times what he does is he like puts it into a mold to fill it. And I don't know that he's done it where, like in this case, somehow you'd have to cover it. I mean, you could probably cover it with whatever, I guess, but you'd have to cover it outside of the mold. Like, the only time that I've seen it, he's usually doing it in like his big guys. Do I have I don't know where it is. Well, like this one, but usually he does it in the big one. And so it's sitting in there blocked. So I'd have to kind of come up with a way to block it. The other thing is I've also been kind of like, well, maybe I could come up with something even better for doing it this way. It's been on my mind to try something a little bit different. On the other hand, it's also kind of nice to just pick up some cups and dump them. Like, it works pretty good. Like, you get differing amounts, and it's I don't know. I mean, I guess eventually you could get to the point where you really have a lot of control over stuff, but I don't. I'm getting to the point where I don't just dump it everywhere in my shop, like all over the table, kind of thing. So there's a little muscle memory that has to go with it a little bit, but because it's kind of chaotic, that's what we want in these blanks. So it's kind of an interesting thing. Whereas so far what I've found with like the split cups and doing certain things, it almost doesn't get it chaotic enough. Like, it's all kind of homogeneous, the way that things happen. So I do want to try it though. I do want to try it. So the gel time with temp, yeah. So well, you can adjust it. It's each resin is going to have this. You know, you mix it in the cup. You pour A and B in the cup, mix it up, and you know, pretty much once A and B are in the cup, that's when the chemical reaction is like starting. But let's just assume that the mixing time is always the same. We're just going to make an assumption that no matter what, the mixing time is like, you know, a minute or something like that. So let's just throw away the mixing time. So between the time that you've gotten it mixed up and there's a time where it literally solidifies, like it is a solid, hard material. It's going to start heating up, and what's happening is it's thickening and thickening and thickening, and eventually it just becomes solid. So, you know, it's pretty thin. I don't know, the gel time, what I call that, is when it's like thick, you know. And so what we're doing when I'm taking the temperature of this stuff, at a certain point, it's a certain viscosity, and you can kind of judge that consistently based on the temperature that it reaches. But that, like I said, there's a lot of factors. It depends on what the temperature in your shop is, what that number works for me. And so as long as your ambient temperature stays the same, you can reliably pour at the same temperature and pretty much get similar results. Like it's going to generally take the same amount of time for it to kind of go through its process and get to fully hardened and not move around. If the temperature in the shop is like, you know, right now it's 70 degrees Fahrenheit in my shop. If it was 95 in my shop, the problem is the resin itself starts out way thinner. So the higher the temperature in the shop, the thinner the viscosity of the resin starting is. And what I find is you end up having to go to a higher temperature to adjust for when you pour. And this only matters when you're doing like color swirling, like mixing things together like that. If all you're doing is pouring a bunch of black blanks, you throw away all this stuff, mix it up, get it all, you know, well mixed, mix in the dye, and just pour your blanks and move on with your life. Like, it doesn't matter. It's to try and keep color bleed from happening, from it, you know, mixing together basically. Because if you just mixed it up, dumped a bunch of pigments in 2 cups and then dumped them right away, it would all just blend into one color. So that's what we're doing, is we're trying to get separation between the 2 colors with this, you know, gel time. And what I'm saying is, in my experience, and I don't have a lot of experience because I don't like the longer working time resins, but it's harder to nail the timing, I find. And it's just because you have like a shorter window with Alumilite clear and clear slow. There's only so many minutes out of the thing. And so the gel period window can't be big. It's a matter of minutes, you know. Whereas when you've got 45 minutes of working time, the window's bigger, you know, kind of thing. But even after the 45 minutes, I find that those things can move even more than you would think. But you're still beyond the point of where you could pour it without, you know, and get it in a pressure pot and get the bubbles out still. Like it gets hard enough to where the bubbles won't collapse fully, but it still can move. It's kind of a weird thing. That's something that I've found. It's tougher for me for sure to deal with these longer working time resins and find the perfect temperature. I think, you know, within 2 to 3 tries, most people can figure out what a good temperature to pour at is. And the thing is, it's not always going to be exactly the same, because you can get a temperature, but depending on how you're pouring the blanks. So like, for instance, this is, let me drop a bomb on you guys, okay? So if I was pouring bricks, I would probably be pouring at like 110 to 115 for sure. Like it would actually be a higher number, because more comes out at once. It's easier to get more out, and it's got, you know, this is specific to your question. Like, it can move a whole lot more in a big brick, so you need to get it at a higher temperature. But when you're pouring into a little 3/4 inch hole, it doesn't have as much room to move, and so I actually pour at a lower temperature, typically vertically in these smaller holes. Now, but then going back to, if it was a 1.5 inch pipe, then I would have to increase that temperature. There's a lot of factors that go into this, and it even depends on your technique of how you pour things, and whether you're going to stir it with a stick or not, and do all this stuff. So you got to kind of play around with it. But I think that if the gel period is kind of shorter, I always find it easier for people to kind of figure out, okay, this is a good temp for me to pour at personally, how I'm doing my blanks, or which mold I'm using, whatever. That's why I always recommend Alumilite Clear Slow, or just the clear, even if you can get everything mixed up in 5 to 7 minutes. It can actually be a better way to go if you got just 2 colors, or maybe 3 or something like that you're dealing with only. My problem is Alumilite Clear Slow can do so many different things that it's just it's what I recommend most people use. You got a little bit extra time, you could pour gigantic, huge, like bowling ball, size pours if you wanted, which is not something you can do with just the regular clear. It's got a lot of things you could do with it, and it still does pen blanks perfectly fine. But if you're trying to crank things out and you're only doing 2, maybe 3 colors at a time, you might look at just buying the regular clear, because you'll have quicker turnover. You're going to be getting the things poured quicker. They'll be in and out of the pressure pots quicker. So there's different things to think about. Looks like silicone caps. Oh, he has a silicone cap with a funnel. Does he just sell the funnels? Chad has used. Yeah, paper cups can be pretty good. The other nice thing about paper cups is you can squish them. So you can pour them all kind of at the same time. The problem that I found is you can do that, but you might notice that those 2 tips are not really, they're pretty far apart. So it can get a little bit messy still to get the cups. But you have a little bit more control over that. My thing is, though, I really think that there's something more going on when you've got 2 different cups coming at different angles. You can even overlap them a little bit, and that's what I was saying about the chaos of doing it this way. It's not just, you could get it to where it's flowing perfectly, but I find that I don't actually want that. I want it to be kind of a chaotic mixture of stuff. So far, at least, I haven't done this enough to say, oh, well, this is exactly how it works. But in the few things that I've done, doing 2 cups, these are the things that I'm noticing, is that the randomness is actually your friend. That's what really gets you this really interesting mixture of stuff without even having to mix it up or do anything. So there's different ways to do it. If you need to do 4 colors at a time, then you can grab 2 and 2 and do it that way. That's another good way to do it. 3 is, the odd numbers are the weird ones. You're probably if you just are doing three colors, same amount, you're probably best off like doubling 2 of them and then just pouring 1 and then doubling 2. That's an easy way to do it too. So anyway, guys, I should probably get going. I got a ton of, this week has been crazy. Every time I start getting going, I got to leave the shop or do some random thing. So I haven't gotten anything done this week, and I got a lot of blanks to make. So anyway, I am looking forward to seeing how these things turn out. Unfortunately, we had a mess up on the first round, but hopefully you guys will learn from it. Try to focus on what you're doing, and another tip for that may or may not have saved anything. Sometimes your brain just goes crazy. Having a Sharpie, and let's just say that I was, this was the cup I'm mixing. Had I written 380, like maybe times 2, had I written just a note, a visual thing on the cup, maybe that wouldn't have gone awry. Maybe I wouldn't have gone like, oh, it's 295. I would have been staring at 380, looking at 295 on the scale and been like, that's not right. So sometimes just adding a note on your cup might help. But, I was kind of talking and doing stuff, and I was all over the place. So hopefully it'll help you guys from, keep you guys from doing that. But next week we'll be back. We'll turn one of these guys. I'm not sure which way I'm going to go for the pen and all that kind of stuff on this. I'll have to look at like the kits that I have and different stuff. But I'm really, really looking forward to turning these. This is, like I said, color combination that I've wanted to do for a long time. So I think this is spring. It's a perfect time to do it. So anyway, guys, I hope you all have a great rest of the week. Oh, before we quit, so we got the poll results. I'm going to end it. So you guys, interestingly though, so 30% of you said 1 ounce and 70 said 2 ounce. So even it's an interesting thing. Frankly, we did a poll a couple weeks ago, and I think I forgot to end the poll, and I don't even know what the the results were. I forget what the poll was, but that didn't help much. So we ended the poll, we got the results, and that should, I think, be in the replay, also for people that are watching later. So it says like 69, 70%, 2 ounce, 1 ounce, 30%. This is like the pigment bottle sizes that I was kind of talking about. Different stuff. The 1 ounce bottles are significantly more expensive. It's to the point where I'm like, eh. But what I don't like about only offering a 2 ounce as the smallest bottle is it's obviously going to be about twice as much as a 1 ounce for the consumer, for the people buying it. So I don't know. I got to do a little bit of math numbering and all that kind of stuff and see how I feel about the 1 ounce bottles. Another thing is, depending on which cap size you go with, or like which bottle size, that may dictate which size the cap needs to be. And what would not be fun is having to buy 2 different size caps also. So like there's a few, this whole liquid pigment bottling stuff, there's a lot more to it than just being like, oh, I'll just sell some pigments. It'll be great. So anyway, guys, we'll be back next week. We'll turn up a pen. Actually, yeah, Saturday. We're good. Whoa, I almost lost the glasses. Next week, we're going to a AAA baseball game on Friday. So I was like, oh, wait. But yeah, we'll be back in the shop Saturday, turn one of these guys up. And then these guys are going to go into the pen, excuse me, the monthly Pen Blank Club boxes. So don't forget, we got the little faux burls. There's at least 2 boxes. I put them back on the website. I don't know if anybody bought any, but if they're gone already or not. But there was 2 of them available, maybe 3. So keep your eyes peeled for those if you like these little faux burls. They're the over pours. I don't pressurize them, but I haven't really seen any issues with bubbles too much. And then you just recast them and make some bottle stoppers or handles or whatever. So they're available on the website. So anyway, guys, have a great rest of the evening. Thanks for joining.